welcome to Benjamin, Keely, and James Garwacki to the OT branch from Sawdust OT in Atlanta. And before we get started, I did just want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land I'm coming to you from today, which is the Yaegl people, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. So welcome, Ben and James. Thank you for coming on and sharing with me today and the OT community. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good.
Doing well. We're happy to be here in Atlanta at, you guys are in the future, so it's good.
You're at the end of a long working day in the workshop. So yeah, so thank you again for coming on because it's 7:30 p.m. there. Is that right?
Yeah, you got it.
I'm so glad you guys have come on. The first thing I want to ask you, and Ben, I think you're going to probably answer this, is just a little bit about the Sawdust OT journey, I guess, and your background and how this all came about to do something so unique with OT.
Yeah. So it's kind of a layered question for James and I. So a little background on me. I've been a pediatric therapist for a while. Before starting Sawdust, I actually was a home health therapist. I would go to the homes of the children I would see who were considered unable to go to clinics because they were unable to leave the home due to fragile health statuses. And for me too, I've been in that world for as long as I can remember. My family has a condition called myotonic muscular dystrophy. A lot of my family members on my dad's side has it. It's a genetic recessive trait. And with my cousins, I saw them as they were younger and as they got older and as they aged out of support systems. How it is here is around age 21 or 22, resources and fundings gets cut from like the pediatric category and then moves to different categories. And there's a big gap for this population, and not just funding, but just in general from a population and from a gathering standpoint, they lose these supports, youth groups, doctors they've been seeing, their pediatricians, just general after school programs, they're out of school. So that support system's gone. So these young adults don't have anywhere really to go or to continue to grow because you and I know as therapists that you don't turn 22 and then you're like, oh, my condition is gone and I am ready to be independent in everything. Age is just a number. But for Sawdust, one of our biggest ideas, we James and I thought about this when we were in grad school, was creating something that meets these young adults, this population and younger who are preparing to transition to that age group, giving them a place where they can continue to receive services, but also receive services that's age appropriate and have matured with them. So we both are avid woodworkers in our past and present. We still do it as a hobby. And we thought, why don't we go back to the heart of OT, go back to where we started, which is craft, and create a clinic that works with this population and older and assist them in finding meaningful occupations through doing these meaningful occupations and giving them a way to become more independent in a age appropriate way and kind of grow through the craft of woodworking.
I just love that you've identified that kind of middle area of when people outgrow the clinic, for example, and you don't just all of a sudden become an adult or grow up or outgrow your diagnosis, for example, or your challenges that come along with your diagnosis. Sometimes those skills take a long time. And not only that, life then still continues to throw the next level of challenge to you. So you do need that support ongoing to adapt to whatever, your next stage or season is for you. So I love that. And I was just going to touch on just what are you seeing in some of these kids or even at young adults who don't have services?
What we're seeing is especially if you're like 25 or older, we're seeing some young adults who have really regressed from where they were. anymore. Most of the time, the parents will be like, they were doing this, now they're not, or they used to go out and do all these things. Now they're just, their day consists of computer, iPad, TV, bed. I mean, if that's not occupational deprivation, then I don't know what it is. But that's what we're seeing is these young adults who had just as much potential when they were 14 as they are 25 that aren't being able to grow on those skills because they're not getting services and they're not being just like I think Rush Dunton was is equated occupation to be as important as water, the water we drink. I mean, they're not getting what they need to be able to participate in their community, and it's really a disservice to them. So being able to see them come into a clinic and one, be respected as an individual, as their age, being seen as a young adult who's coming to complete a more mature activity, and then seeing them leave with what they made, it's really cool to see that pride kind of come back and see them really own something new in their life that a lot of times they might not even, when the parents have them tell them, hey, we're going to go here, they'll be like, that doesn't sound great, I don't want to do that. And then they end up leaving like, when can I come again? Because I have this toolbox, or I have this whatever project they made, and I have some more ideas, and then it just keeps going. So yeah, it's not uncommon to see these young adults or even teenagers who decided that they don't want to go to OT, the traditional pediatric occupational therapy clinic. So they've been out of the clinic setting for 3-4 years, seeing them come in, seeing where clearly regression had occurred, and seeing how quickly we can get them back to where they were by just engagement and activity and occupation. Really it's been really cool to see.
Yeah, I love what you said earlier about going back to the roots of OT. The whole basket weaving tradition and where that came from, and that did come from occupation. And it's just really not. It was, even though this is unique and seems so new and out of the box, the merit behind it is your traditional OT and the true essence of what OT is meant to be all about. So I was going to ask you, who comes to your clinic? Like, I mean, what types of challenges do the people have that are coming to you guys?
I can go ahead and get that one, Ben. A lot of our challenges that we have that come to the clinic are some of the things that you would normally see as well, where it's fine motor, gross motor. We have sequencing deficits, attending and attention to tasks. Also, a lot of our stuff, a lot of our guys have a socialization and a decrease in that peer-to-peer interaction because of those aspects of their diagnosis, essentially, of what they have. And sometimes the parents, have difficulty, whether they're homeschool, anything that basically has come into their life. But the big thing we have seen is a decrease in social interaction with people who are of the same age group of them, and appropriate social interaction and socialization as well. That's a couple of the larger, I'd say, big ticket items that we normally sit there and see during evaluations, and also during our intake forms, and through discussions with the parents also. How can we help your child or your young adult? And this is what they're really hammering on, because previously, they worked on tying shoes or buttons or zippers, or being able to do their ADLs in their other clinic, but now they're able to do that. But now that they have grown up and that their needs, wants, and desires have changed as they age, what are the next tasks that they need to be able to accomplish when they start getting older and more mature, and how can we address those is kind of that big factor as well. Ben, you got anything to add on that one?
Yeah, it's kind of, it makes me think back all those prereqs we had to take before we could even get into school, the across the lifespan courses we took. The whole idea of, we don't stop living and we don't stop having to grow once we reach adulthood. There's more things that we have to do. And like James hit on, we see a lot of young adults who have a lot of skills in certain areas, or they check the boxes for your classic ADLs, but IADLs definitely need a lot of assistance, kind of taking it to the next level of, all right, let's operate this type of machinery. Let's operate this type of tool. Let's look at building a resume. Have you ever even spoken to somebody about getting a job? Have you ever had to clock in and clock out of work? These like next building blocks to skills to be able to participate in your community are things that we see and things that we really try to hit on for our young adults. Like, yeah, I don't know if we were talking about this later, but I feel like I'll go ahead and bring it up now. Is we're partnered with a couple groups like Ken's Crew through Home Depot, they're a vocational program that works with young adults, primarily with the ID/DD diagnoses, where we get these young adults they train them and get them comfortable in like a Home Depot setting, a Lowe's setting, a Walgreens, and help train them and get them comfortable in those environments. What we do behind the scenes, even before that, is kind of doing an evaluation on these young adults and see what they're interested in, see what skills are required for where they want to work, get those skills to a level that can then we give like a Sawdust seal of approval, and we send them to Ken's Crew on their next journey and the next step towards gainful employment, or maybe give them information on community groups that we know about in our community. Like there's a group called the Three Basketeers, or who are young adults who assemble and create baskets for holidays or different events, and they make the things that are in the baskets and they sell them. It's really kind of finding what in our community these young adults would thrive and enjoy being a part of, and helping get them comfortable enough to be able to participate in whatever occupation they prefer.
I'm glad you brought it up, Ben, about your connection with and the collaboration you guys are doing with Home Depot. And I think I checked earlier that you've been in the Sawdust business for a couple of years. Is that right? Or did I? Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah. A really big achievement to collaborate with communities, to have that sustainable approach to therapy. I mean, that's the end game of OT, is to have a functional, independent, sustainable, meaning. So I guess, how did you go about that? How did you collaborate with these community partners? Was there a lot of work involved? I guess if we're talking about, really creating community action, what are some tips, or how did you go about it?
Well, I, for one, am a shameless marketer. I will go out and sell ice to an Eskimo, but at the same time, a lot of the stuff that we've gotten from getting involved in the community was some of the stuff that we found out during field work as well. Some of our level 1s and our level 2 field work aspects, making those connections and networking. Ben was the president, or is the president, of the GOTA, Georgia OT Association in North Georgia.
North District Chair, not President.
North District Chair. Sorry, I apologize. I gave you a promotion for no reason. My bad. So he was part of the North District Chair for that, and he developed a lot of those I would say agreements, or those interactions with individuals as well. Then of course there's all these other nonprofits who are getting started up, because the community itself is a very tight-knit community, and if one person knows about you, then they're going to spread the word, essentially, whether it's good or bad. And so with that, we started kind of growing a little bit more with a nonprofit called Circle of Friends, who were looking for long-term sustained living, and basically a location that they can pretty much just call their own, but while exposing their community to the individuals of our community that we work with directly. And so we started engaging with them a lot more. And this was really one of the first things we had started. Ben was still working at the home health location. I was still in an outpatient orthopedic setting. And we kind of formulated this idea of how can we sit there and make this work. So we did a couple of trial runs at this location, seeing if this is something that was viable and if people even had an interest in this. And before we knew it, we were asked to come back again, and could we do a toolbox project? Then it became Christmas time. Could we do a Christmas tree with them? And then all of a sudden they were opening up a coffee shop, and hey, can you guys build these things with us so we can go ahead and develop it? And then of course from there we got in contact with Home Depot, because a friend of someone's sister heard about us on Facebook, So we started a lot of more of that social media presence as well, and just posting about who we are, and, you know, doing that targeted marketing as well around the Atlanta area with those keywords and those key phrases, and hitting those demographics that we traditionally know or can identify through basically some of that research that we've done, and some of that that behind the scenes networking a little bit more of like, okay, where is everyone coming from? And then of course going out to the schools also and looking at these schools and saying, we are currently in the process with a lot of the academies and some of the private schools in the area. We're still working on the public schools, but going to them and saying, okay, you have these individuals who are here. They are quote unquote graduated now because they're above 18 and they've completed their 12th year of schooling, and they're still here. But you have them going out into the community for 2 hours to do what? What are they doing that's going to be helping and benefiting themselves? And so from there, then we are able to kind of redirect and say, if they can come to Sawdust Occupational Therapy. They're going to learn a skill. They're going to learn a trade. We're going to be able to address these IADLs and ADLs aspects of everything that we need to. And then at the same time, how about you guys take this school, this hour or this 2 hours that we work with them, and you count this as towards an extracurricular activity for them, so they're still receiving school credit. So it's those kind of ways that as an OT that we're all very good at, is having to find a way to make you fit into their lives in a way that they're going to want to have that buy-in as well, and say, okay, yes, this is exactly what I want to do. Because as Ben and I have both said, they're now out of that traditional occupational therapy clinic. And every time, I cannot tell you how many times we have these 15 and 16 and 17-year-old individuals come in. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do OT. I don't want to do this. I show them a miter saw or a nail gun, and the first thing they're like, Mom, this is so cool. Can I please come back here? So
we also did like a needs assessment too. So we kind of saw, all right, where are people going? What do they need? We talked to the parents. We did a couple just kind of town hall meeting kind of things where we would go to the rec departments of parks, and we would say, hey, today we're going to let anyone and everyone come. We're going to do a toolbox build. We just want to let you know about us, and we want to get to know our community. And talking to the parents in particular, they really were pretty open about kind of where there were gaps in where their young adults lives, they needed assistance. And the young adults too. We spoke to them as well, and they're like, you know, I want to work. I love to do these things, and then a lot of times they'll joke with their mom, but like, Mom won't let me do this. And we're like, well, tell you what, you come to us. We're trained, we're licensed. We know how to do this safely, and we'll teach you so you can do it safely. And then I think your mom might be more open to getting you a hand sander or a power drill. And then we're getting videos of our young adults helping their dads build their decks. We've got one of those. We've got a video of one of our guys building custom American flags and selling them. So he's making money doing it. So it's like really cool to see these young adults who have said what they need, getting what they need, and then taking it with them. But yeah, doing a needs assessment, being like, okay, this person's offering this person's offering this, but nobody's talking. We're not communicating. Because we can't offer everything these young adults need, but what we can do is help direct them to where we could best suit them by getting them in an environment that is successful. So really building a community and bridging those gaps are something we really enjoy doing and strive to do.
Advocating for our clients or our apprentices, and not only that, but also the parents as well. We have parents who are moving all over to the country, coming to Georgia, leaving Georgia, and trying to figure out what services are available to them, where sometimes health insurance, oh, we won't cover this, but we'll cover these things. And instead we can look at them and say, okay, so now you're new to Georgia, have you applied for these programs, these waivers, or these grants? And then we can put them in contact with those individuals and those points of contact. But not only that, but then we can put them in contact with parents as well who have gone through that system, and they can kind of understand and identify the pitfalls and how to avoid them. and bringing those services to everybody. So not only are we developing it within the occupational therapy community, but we're also getting it in the general community, but then also the parental community as well, to where everyone is being able to talk and share that information and that wealth of knowledge that everybody has a little bit of, and we can sit there and just capitalize on it so our guys can get what they need, and so they can live that, their life to the fullest as much as they can.
Yeah. Sounds like there's kind of two parts to this. Like there's that hustle, the marketing side where you obviously want people to be aware and hear what you're doing. And then they're seeing the results and people want to buy in. Like you say, when people see real change and action taking, people will get on board. But there's also that organic part that comes from, talking to your community. What do you guys want? What do you need? And then delivering that. So, but yeah, I love it. I think it's just so cool that it's OTs for you guys is like this stepping stone on filling in those gaps and building those skills that are required to have meaningful occupation in the community and in the real world, essentially. So I love that. And I wanted to touch on when you said, Ben, about how they'll say, oh, but mum won't let me. I want to talk about that. And we talked a bit about it last week around just how much of OT and therapies, not just OT, but therapies and their childhood and their therapy journey or wellness journey to date can be kind of dictated from the outside. Even schooling, everything's a have to. We have to do this. We've got to go here. You've got to do your exercises, or even though OT is super fun and kids love to come, but there's a lot of have to. There's a lot of decision making that's not in the hands of the child, but they become young adults and they don't have necessarily those skills. Share a bit about that intersection.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, one of the biggest things we're seeing too is autonomy. Our apprentices' autonomy to be able to decide what they want to do. We always let them pick what project they want to work on, and we're going to make it happen. We're going to figure out how can we make this happen. We had a guy make a wooden vending machine. I would have never thought that was something you could make, but we made it happen. But yeah, like you're saying, these young adults, typically not in any malicious way, but a lot of times, most of the time, society, their parents, their teachers, their just any type of authority figure has kind of told them where to go, when, why. It's safe to do this. It's not safe to do this. This is how it's done. And by these young adults getting to this age, coming to us, they have a hard time being able to kind of make decisions for themselves, know what they can and can't do. So we're allowing them a safe place to fail where they won't get injured. They won't be ridiculed if they do. And they can learn how to get and improve upon what they're doing and let them decide the direction they want to go. There's real power to that. There's real power to being able to know, I decide where I want to go and I decide what I want to do. I've seen that with my family and I've seen that with my clients, giving them a project, seeing it through. The wood might split. We might make a bad cut and we have to fix it. But at the end of the day, your project is done. You get to say, you made that, you thought it up, you made it, and you take it home. And sometimes you sold it and that's your money in your pocket that you got because you made that decision. And that has been huge for our clients, giving them the ability to let them make their own decisions, have their own autonomy, and lead their own lives. Giving them that option, it explodes into other aspects of their life too. Being able to tell their parents, this is something I want to do. This is a direction I want to go. Or, Dad, I would love to make this with you. And they're building these relationships with their parents. That is less of a one-way street. It's more two ways. There's engagement there. It's really cool to see. It's one of those things that I think James could probably agree with me. It's really easy to go to bed at night knowing that these young adults are taking these steps to gain their own independence, and we're a small part of helping them decide that. Because once they take that leap, like I said, a young adult, he's building his own flags and making his own money now, and that's what we love to see. Is they're taking the initiative, they're deciding what they want to do, and they're running with it. That's our goal, is to help these young adults do that. So yeah, autonomy, giving these young adults the ability to do what they want to do in a safe way has been really eye-opening.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think that stood out for me around the just because even like I said, even though OT's fun, like play therapies are generally really fun and they are supporting vital skills. Like there's absolutely need for the work that we're doing, but sometimes particularly in any child's world, but in disability world, sometimes that we can lose that sort of sense of self and sense of being, of what, what motivates a child, what do they actually want for themselves, and then that carries into young adulthood. But then all of a sudden you're on your own and not empowered. So I love how much that just empowers people that you're working with to make decisions, like you say. Whole concept around having a safe space to fail. So often, our kids might not want to do an activity because they are scared of failing, because their experience before that is that they've failed and the outcome from the people around them hasn't been supportive. So I really love that whole concept. Autonomy is like, again, bread and butter OT. That's what we literally learn that these subjects. So
and understanding with our guys too, something that James and I have really kind of hit with our guys, and it's really helped build the rapport, is we don't judge you based off what you like. I think a lot of these young men, young women have certain interests in things that might be considered not what we be like, oh, you need to get past that. You need to get past that. Like video games, Mario, those kind of things. We're like, well, if you love Mario, why don't we make a life-size wooden Mario you can put on your wall, and like the lights just go off. And these guys who in their previous evals will say have the ability to sustain attention to a task for 5 to 6 minutes. This guy's been putting Mario blocks in a Mario pattern for about 45 minutes, and he doesn't want to end the session because he wants to finish this Mario. So like having this autonomy, but also understanding and meeting our clients where it's like, this is what you like, and let's make it something that you can grow with. Because Mario is not bad, but we also want to get you away from the screen and maybe making Mario in a 3D sense. But we're not going to bring your passion down. If that's something you love, let's find a way to make it functional too. Let's run with it. It's kind of something we enjoy doing too.
It makes us think of like, okay, how are we going to make this into a 3D digital product? How are we going to make that into a wooden product? And it's certainly something that's always interesting, and it definitely keeps us on our toes. But 100% being able to identify what they like and how we can relate it in a functional aspect towards them, meeting their goals and giving them that independence is basically our entire business model of how can we make these guys as independent as possible and go through life with these aspects and these new skills that we can teach them.
Yeah, and just so valid around how in an evaluation might make the note, can only attend for 5 minutes or whatever it might be. And you're like, actually, no, when they're motivated and meaning is attached, they can actually attend for as long as you'll give them the time to keep practicing and keep way. And you see that, evaluations might be string beads or build a tower, blocks, whatever. And, you kind of get this assessment on whether you have fine motor skills based on your capacity to do that. But you're talking about so much fine motor work with what you're doing. And I'm sure from the start of a session to the end, they're actually quite able, so I think that that's so important. If you're assessing from a functional perspective, there's meaning attached. So those skills are going to hold so much further beyond your sessions than doing something that doesn't have meaning attached. Yeah, I just think it's so awesome. Run me through, because I love this, and so run through for whoever watches, but also again for me, what your sessions look like, because this bit, when the whole tag thing, and I was so excited about it all. Tell me about the way it works, because I love it.
Yeah, sure. Well, not to be misconstrued, but when we first talked about this is not a badge or a sheriff badge, Lee, so we're okay on that. So
but in my defense, James, you didn't have yours. I couldn't see yours. Something can bend. Like, you're looking so like Yellowstone with your badge. I was like, this is John Dutton here. So
right.
So typically I'll take you right in from the moment you start that you walk in the door. As you walk in the door, you're going to essentially grab a puzzle piece. For their first session, everyone makes a puzzle piece because that is you becoming part of the Sawdust Occupational Therapy family. And whether you want to paint it or you want to stain it is a choice up to you. Right off the bat, you're making, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? So you're making those choices off the bat. And then, of course, what everybody wants to, again, to help them feel more comfortable, we're going to give you a wood burning tool, and you're going to burn your name into this puzzle piece right off the bat again. So not only with that, but from their perspective, like, I get to do something really cool. But then coming from the OT perspective, we're looking at it going like, okay, what about impulsivity? What are we looking for with, fine motor? What are we looking for with attending? And all these different things. So after that, then they grab their puzzle piece and then they put on their apron, working on some of those dressing tasks. Can they sit there and they tie that apron behind their back with their vision occluded, or do they need assistance with it? How much assistance? Right from there, then now we're going to sit there and work on your recall of, do you remember what project you were working on last time? Okay, was it a carpenter bee trap? Was it American flag? Was it the Mario? Was it a toolbox? Was it a birdhouse? Was it these things? If not, okay, go ahead and grab that, and we design and plan all of these things out for them. So they'll go into their current projects folder, they'll find their project, and then they'll go and bring it to us. And the whole thing that signifies that you are ready for, work to begin, because while it is a clinic, we sit there and we stress that this is to you guys, this is work. You are clocking in and out of work, and you are focusing on that, because some of our guys, I'd say about 80% of them do bring their toolboxes in, because it's practicing that part of responsibility, and that is their exercise outside of when they leave when they leave Sawdust or the wood shop. Don't forget your toolbox, because you need a backpack for school, or you need lunch for when you go to work, or you have to remember to pick up these things. So it's that added aspect of responsibility of, when you come in here, we want you to have your toolbox, that means, and your apron on, and your puzzle piece off the wall onto the workstation with your project in hand. That means you are ready for work, and you are ready to sit there and, have us there with you. So that's how that kind of spot goes. And then, of course, whether we grade things up or down, or we adjust with a lot of our plans sometimes, like Ben alluded to, we sit there. I am not a perfect woodworker. Lord knows I have made more than my share of colorful words in my head when I'm sitting there and I'm doing a miscut, and I'm like, 12 plus 12 is 24, but how in the world of woodworking did I get to 14? I don't know. But it's those kind of aspects as well, where we can sit there and address some of these problems that will arise, where it's like, hey, we miscut something. Let's go back and make sure that we're double checking our work, and that we can address these, because sometimes when you're building something, things don't go perfectly A, B, and C. You might have something that goes wrong, and then now you have to use that executive functioning and that processing to look at it and go, now I have to sit there and problem solve. Okay, this isn't working. Why is this not working? And now I can redirect around it. And that's another thing that we are there to help for them. And we're there with that assistance level of whether it's, independent or whether it's max. It varies.
Yeah, to loop back to kind of your question, and like what James was saying, was we really did want to create an environment that is structured like a job. So yeah, so you walk in, like James was saying, you grab your puzzle piece with your name on it. We have a whole wall of it, because we also want to show everybody's together in this. So you grab your puzzle piece and you put it on your workbench. That's your workbench. That's what you're going to work on. And then you put on your apron, you tie it, or if you need a little assistance, we work on donning and doffing, tying the apron. But yeah, you work in, you clock into work, and you clock out of work. You bring your toolbox, you got your tools. So we're building that kind of pattern again in mind, to eventually, once our guys graduate from Sawdust, to another place of employment, but kind of build those healthy habits and routines into the session to kind of promote that environment. So yeah, that's our goal. And we all, like, I think you probably heard us say, but we don't really call our guys clients, we call them apprentices. Because we try to further build that whole idea of, we don't want you to feel like this is you're coming to a clinic per se, but you're coming to work and you're coming to learn, and we're going to help teach you. So eventually you stop being an apprentice and you're a master at a craft. You're going to go take your craft somewhere, and wherever that goes, awesome. But yeah, we want you to come in, clock out, and give us a strong session, because this is your hour. This is your however long you're here to work.
Oh, so cool. So you've talked about flags, vending machine, life-size Marios for the wall. What's a child working with the dad to make a balcony? So tell me, I'd love to hear from both of you, what's been a really memorable case you've worked with, or just something that stands out whenever you want to share the glory of what you're doing. What can you tell me?
Oh, I call dibs on this one first, Ben, because I just completed it today.
I know exactly what you're about to talk about.
Oh, you do? Because how far did we launch it? So I had a young apprentice who, he was like, well, I don't know what I want to build. And I just started showing him some pictures. And he was like, again, 9-year-old boy going, I want to build that. I have never seen eyes get so wide before as this guy. And he was just going, I want to do this. I want to do this. In the back of my head going, all right, this thing is 8 feet tall. How can I size this thing down?
James, what did you build?
I built, drum roll, please. We built a 4-foot tall trebuchet, or a catapult, basically. His mom just took it home today, and the mom texted me going, this is the coolest thing ever. I have no idea where we're going to put this, but this is the coolest thing. And I think he is all ready to go this weekend, and he wants to launch this. So what we did is we built this trebuchet, or the catapult, with everything. And I went over with him, how we're going to do the engineering of it, how we're going to do the locking mechanism, how we're going to launch this, what mechanics we're going to use to launch it, the different angles, and all the different tools that we used. I mean, we used almost every tool in the clinic to build this thing. And then today I will send you a picture, Lee, of this guy having the time of his life with it, and a video of him launching a tomato and a brick and an avocado. May they all rest in pieces, because that's definitely what ended up with them all. So it was a great time with him. And like I said, the mom took it home today, and she's just, I guarantee you this weekend, she's going to be sending me videos of him sitting there launching stuff in the backyard. Thankfully, it only goes about like 25 or 40 feet. So that's okay. It's not going into the neighbor's backyard and not laying siege warfare onto the neighbors, but we're okay there.
What happens when a child wants to make a bow and arrow? What do you do then? Don't send it.
You make it. I'm actually in the process of making a bow for somebody. We have ash wood, which is actually one of the woods that they historically used for bows. Granted, we kind of steer certain apprentices certain ways if we think maybe this might not be safe, but we always get approval from parents. But going off that, I think one of my most memorable was my first sword and shield I made with a young man. He loves fantasy novels and wanted to make the Sword of Gryffindor from Harry Potter. So we made the sword and we made the shield down to we have a projector that projects whatever we put under it. So he had to trace along the crest of Gryffindor and then use a Dremel tool to carve it out and put it on a shield. But the reason it's memorable to me is because after he did that, all the apprentices saw that and were like, well, we need our sword and shield. We need our wizard staff. We need all these things. So that everybody started making their own kind of costume weaponry or armor. And it kind of built a community. We had guys coming we hosted a barbecue or a cookout, and they're coming with their swords and shields and making up their own pretend names of who they are. So much so that James and I are looking to start a Dungeons and Dragons group for these young adults, so they can come and wear what they made and create a story for what they are and build little friend groups around that. But that was probably one of my more memorable ones. Was just the process was fun, but kind of what happened after is I still really enjoy seeing these guys still talk about their knight and their cleric and what they do and what their sword magic is. It's just really cool to see them own it and take it farther.
That's so awesome. Although some you guys might call it a community, I feel like you're building an army, but
right.
Kind of lore.
Double doors. What can we say?
But all I can picture is this army of the Sawdust OT army with all their weaponry and artillery. So it sounds. So where's Sawdust OT heading? What are you guys doing now? Where are you heading with the clinic? I know you're talking about a bigger space earlier, James, and last week. So what are you guys up to? How's it evolving?
Well, according to you from the last 5 minutes, apparently we're going doomsday prepping. So it just happens. Where we are going is like we've said and we've kind of talked about a little bit, is our next thing is going to be going into a larger location so we can continue to grow our apprentice program as well, getting out into the community a lot more, being engaged with those schools and with the nonprofit groups, and then finding additional sources of funding for individuals who might not be able to afford these services, or they don't qualify for certain services. So being able to capture everybody who still has these needs to be met, and that way we can address them, but also give everybody that shot at that independent lifestyle and expose everyone to different aspects of, just because you don't want to go to university or you can't go to university doesn't mean that you have to sit home and sit in front of a computer or watch TV and, just you have no purpose. Our goal is to make sure that you can identify and that you can be exposed to all these different things so you can find your own purpose in life. And that is, I think, ultimately our end goal is to be able to show these individuals this is what you can do, and you are much more capable than what, the traditional society has indicated of what you can and cannot do. Our goal is to always build you up and to show everyone else that you are definitely able to do anything that you want. So growth, not only through the community, but also through our business as well. And whether we want to go on speaking tours, I don't know. I'm not a good public speaker. Ben would do that. I'd sit in the back and say hi.
One thing too, from a growth standpoint, and we haven't really brought up, because obviously the name Sawdust, you clearly think woodworking, but we do more than just that too. We do pottery, we do electrical work. We're getting we have a small engine, so for small engine repair and just kind of taking that apart. We also are working on getting a rig to work on oil changes for cars and like tire work. So from a growth standpoint too, what's that? Oh, welding. Yeah, welding. So a lot of these trades that I think as society, we are really starting to understand there's true value in that. We need those skills. So we're having these young adults explore other trades and other skills that they can do, like I said, mechanic work, electrical work. We have a rig where it's, and I got to give props to James. He's the one who created it, but it's a ceiling light that we've rigged up in a wood frame that have the wires set out so you can work on wiring it up, plugging it up, and turning it on to show how these circuits work, how to set up the wires for electrical, because we're working on building on more skills. So woodworking is kind of our base skill that we work on, and then we kind of spread out into interests of, okay, you like woodworking, but you've really told me how much you like metal work. So let's go towards welding, or woodworking doesn't really seem to be your thing, but I noticed that the idea of working with pottery is something that you absolutely love. So let's run with this, and then let me show you how pottery works. But really finding these trade skills and growing, I think from a growth standpoint, we really want to keep hitting the whole community idea and getting more and more of these master craftsmen or these companies that specialize in these skills like welding or like a Jiffy Lube or these mechanic areas, and getting our guys in front of these individuals, having them work with them, and eventually having them have an apprenticeship there. They're employed there. They work there. That's really an area we're looking to grow further, because we've seen that that's what the community is asking us for and what they really need. So yeah, getting a bigger location, but really getting a location where people can come learn these skills and go out and succeed is our goal.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And I think, like you said, opens up more collaboration with the community and those trades. It's essentially like you guys are like a pre-apprentice apprentice. So before one would go have their 4-year apprenticeship with a trade, for example, you're building those skills and giving them like a graded opportunity to learn, so they're not thrown in the deep end and essentially may or may not fail in those situations. So I love that. So I guess I did talk about this when I last spoke to you guys, the safety, just the considerations for me. Like I said, with the ocean, I have to factor in a lot of safety. I thought that was pretty extreme, but this is like, how do you guys even go to bed at night and wake up? Like, I'd just be so anxious all night worrying about an 8-year-old with a power tool. So, share a bit about the safety and how you mitigate that. And I think that's a big fact for anyone considering this more extreme kind of stuff.
Right. So with that, I am more of that individual who is, I'm very black and white. I'm very literal with a lot of things. And we like to tell them this is the adult clinic that you're coming to. And if you don't pay attention to certain things, you can be injured. So giving it to them in an honest format and explaining the reasoning why to them as well. For example, we were doing a lot of the preparation cuts for the saw and for the B traps that we're currently selling for the month of March and April, where, okay, you use the miter saw, you bring it down, and then once you cut it, you have to take your hand off the saw or off the trigger, and you have to keep the saw down. If you do not, the way that it is set up, if you lift that saw blade up, that piece of wood is going to come back and it's going to hit you in the chest. It's not going to feel good and it's not going to be comfortable for you. So I need you to really pay attention. And then we can sit there and sequence that events with a whiteboard right in front of them. And then we sit there and do hand over hand first. And then, of course, during those first few sessions, we work with those tools. We work with hand tools like a screwdriver, Phillips, or a flathead, and then we're working with the wood burning tool as well. That way, we're able to, again, as ODs, identify, all right, are there impulse control concerns? Is there, anything else that really could be a safety pattern? And how do we sit there and basically put that into our mental notes and say, okay, so when I'm working with this individual, I need to be aware of these things, but also being able to give them that responsibility of, this is me from 8 years of military experience and all that. It's like, I'm not going to treat you like a child. I'm going to treat you like a teenager or an adult. And this is how we are going to work on these things. Now, do you have questions? And if you do, I always want you to ask them, because again, as Ben and I say, it is a safe place to fail, but we want to make sure that you are knowing the reason how you did this and how we can sit there and mitigate for future times. Of course, you have those sessions sometimes where might be a little bit of dysregulation. So at that time, again, Ben and I put on our OT lens and we go, it's not going to be a good day to work with power tools. Instead, let's readdress and redirect towards something else that we can still work on that is functional. So safety is always our big ticket item as well. And Ben, is there anything I missed on that?
Yeah, no, you said it pretty well, really well actually. But yeah, it's also, it's kind of a step thing. We don't say, okay, welcome to Sawdust. Now here's the saw. Let's just go use the saw. It's welcome to Sawdust. Let's start small. Let's start with a drill. Let's start with a sander. Let's start with some hand tools, and then we'll graduate up to certain tools. And not everybody has access to every tool. So we meet each individual client where they're at. But also, like we've talked about with autonomy, we also like to assume competence in the standpoint of, we're going to assume competence and we're going to see what you're capable of doing in the safest manner possible. So we're not going to ever allow you to be in a position where you could be injured, but we're also not going to fall into the box that people put you in your whole life and not allow you to try something if we believe we can do it safely. So the goal, it's a balancing act, right? But we always, if it's a teeter-totter, we are always on the side of safety, but we're going to try to find your just right challenge, that just right place of where do we need to meet you. But yeah, our program never jumps straight into the sharps. We jump straight into the managed hand tool direction and then kind of go from there. And so, like I said, some of our individuals, we might not ever go past hand over hand with the saws, but they are whizzes with the nail gun, the Dremel, all these things. Everyone's unique. James is way more comfortable with the table saw than I am as an individual. So everyone has skill sets that they work on. But yeah, being as safe as possible and meeting that client where we need to meet them is really our best way of doing it. It's the same way I like to, when I talk to other OTs in different environments, it's like, it's the same way as doing a cooking task with individuals. There's certain ways you're going to step them into it. Going to the oatmeal assessment, we want to see where you're at, but we're not necessarily going to give you a walk over an open flame for your first thing and make stir fry. We're going to work on a microwave. It's the same logic. It's finding that person where they're at and gradually working your way up to other tools. Once we use our clinical judgment and say, all right, it's safe to move up to this, is kind of the best way we can say it, kind of formulate, because it is a crazy idea using power tools, but there is a method to our madness.
Or we're just mad. Who knows?
Sorry?
Or we're just mad. Who knows?
Yeah. Compare a microwave to a drill all you like, Ben, but I'm not buying it. Comparison between an open flame and power tools, but
right.
No.
Actually, we use open flame at the clinic as well with the blow torches too. So
yeah, that's true. We make rustic flags. That's actually a good point, James.
I cannot tell you the amount of times that parents' eyes have gotten very wide when you're giving their 7-year-old or 8-year-old a blowtorch and you're educating them on how to use it. And the parents are like, I have to walk away. This is too much. But we joke about that. But at the same time, everything is done in a safe and controlled manner. But also it's part of educating the parents as well. And that's the part that we really like to show and demonstrate, that it's like you are leaving your child and young adult in two experienced woodworkers and experienced OTs hands. And if you want to sit in the session, you most certainly can, because we've had parents who have sat there and be like, can I come join sessions? Can you have like a parents' night where you can do this so I can learn how to basically do this, like use these power tools. So then when we go home, my husband or my wife can go ahead and, extrapolate what you've learned about in Sawdust, and then we can have a family interaction that is positive, building upon what we've learned in Sawdust, and then we are able to do these things at home for them and have that additional connection on another level as well with something that we both enjoy. So
it's really cool.
Yeah,
it's really cool to see. We've had kids and young adults have parents in, and they'll be working on furniture that they're going to furnish their own home with. So it's kind of cool to see that bond too of the parent working with the young adult in a joint task, that they're working together in areas that they're both uncomfortable with. So it's less like mom and me, and it's like mom and I we're working together. It's a different dynamic, and it actually really, we've noticed, blossoms relationships as well, to kind of see these young adults and as young adults really is what it is. And I think that's just a classic thing of being a parent. Like my parents always say, like, I know you're 30 years old, but you'll always be my little boy, like that's a thing of being a parent. But getting these young adults in a task with their parent, creating something together, then taking it home, or if the parent can't stay in session, we will send it home, send a project that's partially completed home, be like, this needs to be stained, and we want you to do it with your young adult, like on purpose. We want y'all to collaborate and do this as a unit, because we think it would be really good for y'all's relationship to be able to complete something together. That's a really important piece to what we do, but it's really cool to see these relationships, just like the clinic, mature, a more mature relationship as they work together. It's really cool to see. We enjoy doing that.
Yeah. I love it. And like I said earlier, I think like when we have, a pediatric clinic, and as adults, if we weren't OTs, we probably wouldn't be as playful. I mean, you do have some playful adults, but you do lose that if you don't use that. And so, to get a parent come in with their child, they haven't played in, 20 years, 30 years, and they come in, and it is difficult to kind of just let yourself go and play. And, be silly and be a part of that.
Right.
But your setting, I guess it does open that opportunity not only for connection together, also a learning journey together. Is that there's that it does sort of allow for that connection in that way, and the parent to be a part of that. I just think that's so special. And when you said earlier about the son helping build the deck, I just like there'd be nothing more empowering than being a part of something like that. So yeah, I really love that about what you're doing in the parent role. And I guess sometimes, when we're working with certain kids, or in your case young adults, often there's a lot of dynamics around attachment or the parent's mental health, or so being able to engage the parent as well and essentially support the parent and their own whatever they've got going on. There's that kind of double layer to how things might flow on at home. So I think it's so important. I won't keep you guys too much longer. I did want to ask you, who inspires you in the OT world? So we've all got those mentors or those people who inspire us. Who do you guys want to learn from?
Well, my one of my school mentors, Dr. Jennifer Allison, she definitely inspired me in school. She really taught me how you can take OT from the academia side and make it practical too, and really meeting the clients in the center. Like one of the times we just went to the Dollar Tree and found tons of cheap items and created therapy tools, and then taught these families how to make the therapy tools they needed for $2 compared to $300 from a provider. So working with her and seeing that, I think really helped crystallize the Sawdust idea that James and I had, the whole idea of being able to take something, make it into something, but also make it meaningful and kind of make it your own. So yeah, she definitely has inspired me as a therapist.
Yeah, that's really empowering, kind of giving you the green light to go with what you probably already had in that instinct anyway. So yeah, who inspires you, James?
Honestly, so being an Air Force veteran and being in the military for 8 years and having those issues and those, that PTSD and some TBIs and stuff, I would honestly go back to the father of OT, Dr. William Dunton is my biggest, I'd say, person that inspired me. Basically that father who created everything and said, this is how you can sit there and work with trade and art and craft and kind of make it meaningful. That was my personal journey. When I got out of the military, I was working my way through undergrad, and I recognized through a lot of the different things that I had done and I had seen, I was like, I'm a little, I need a healthy way to basically channel some of this anxiety and some of these feelings that I'm experiencing. And what better way than, starting to pretty much just tear down a house and rebuild it from scratch, and then kind of going from there. And that's actually what kind of pushed me towards occupational therapy in general, because I started reading more in on it, and I looked at this as like, this is exactly, how I can identify with this, and how I'm able to, not only help myself through these things, but also, other people. What can we do with that, and how can we essentially, make this again meaningful for people the way it has helped me. And that's kind of, that's that individual that I really identify with, and I think that kind of pushed me towards this career in general.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And it's so wonderful of you both to share some of your own personal things today. It's really hard to do sometimes. So thanks for sharing that, James, and Ben yourself earlier with the family. One final question, because it's all about professional development, the whole thing that I work towards. But what are you guys up to professional development this year? Courses, or what do you want to learn for yourselves this year on your journey?
I'm looking to get formally certified in DIR floor time. I'm heavily inspired by it, and I use a lot of it in practice. But to actually truly attend all the courses and get the formal certification is something I've been looking to do, and I would really like to do that. And I'm looking to expand my knowledge in work hardening and just work in general, kind of that process, the research behind it. We've researched a fair amount of it, but really kind of delve into that. And you actually inspired me when we talked on our first time we spoke, but actually kind of reaching out to the higher ups, the people who are doing the research, kind of email them, ask them kind of pick their brain, and understand that the OT world really is approachable. These individuals are not like just these porcelain statues. These are individuals out there researching. So really learning more about what everyone else is doing out there in regards to kind of employment and work hardening, all of that kind of stuff is something I'm looking to do to kind of expand my knowledge.
And I've just started getting more into the overall, I'd say the brain chemistry of the autism diagnosis and the socialization, the sociology of that diagnosis in particular. I would like to educate myself a lot more on that, but also within the state of Georgia, I want to sit there and learn a lot more about how to do these grant writing aspects of it, so I can go into other nonprofits that have essentially or starting up or they need assistance, and kind of show them a little bit more once I'm more educated on it. And I'll look at through the certifications of, okay, how can I help you guys write these grants and for these funds again, so we can continue to have services be available for these individuals. So that's just kind of my little goal. I'm just looking at like, okay, what is my, my 5, 10, and my 15-foot target? But I think Ben and I just renewed our licenses. So I'm going to take about a month off and just kind of just let it relax for a minute and be like, all right, cool. Give me 2 more years and I can get working on this now.
That's awesome. It's there's so much to learn. And like every time I ask this question of everybody's got their own learning journey and OT journey and where they want to go along. So even the two of you have got separate, individual goals, I guess, for yourselves. So I just love it. And I love hearing about, who inspires you. And because I think that's kind of what the community really feeds off, is what's everybody doing and, what's out there. There's so many people doing work around that kind of thing. So so awesome. I'm so grateful for you guys to come on today and talk. And like I said, it's been a bit vulnerable with some of the things you've shared, and just all about your business, being so transparent. So thank you so much. It was awesome.
Of course. Thank you. I love it. This was fun.
Okay, see you guys. Take care. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Thanks.